Now, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever been lied to? Have you ever believed the lie you were told? Have you ever lied to yourself? And have you ever believed that you told to yourself? Now, those are what we refer to as limiting beliefs. And often these are held in place by negative emotions from experiences from our past where we made a decision as a result of a bad experience. Now, I want you to take a moment and imagine this. What would it feel like to let go of everything that holds you back? To let go of all of those heavy negative emotions that have been weighing you down. Picture yourself stepping into a life where you're not just successful in your career, but in every facet of your existence. You might be wondering, why should I expend my time and energy on this journey? Or why should you even listen to what I have to say? So I'm going to share a powerful truth with you. The ability to let go, to embrace positivity, and to become the best version of yourself is not just a skill, it is a transformation. It's the key to unlocking doors that you didn't even know existed. In the next hour, we're not just going to talk about change, we're going to experience it together. But before we dive in, I want you to understand why this matters. So I know that each of you is here for a reason. Perhaps you've reached the pinnacle in your career, but you're feeling a void in other aspects of your life. Or maybe you're seeking a way to navigate through the challenges that life throws at you with grace and resilience. Or you could simply be hungry for personal growth and be ready to elevate yourself to new heights. So the why behind the journey is simple, yet it is profound. It is to empower you to live a life that transcends your current boundary, to equip you with the tools and face the challenges head on, and to emerge not just unscathed, but stronger than ever. So it's about letting go of the limitations that hold you back and embracing a version of yourself that is capable of creating an extraordinary life. So I will ask you to be open, to be present, and to be ready. I want you to be ready to discover what lies beyond your current reality. Some of you have seen this before, and some of you have not, but you may not remember the detail. So we're going to go through it again. And in this webinar, it's about you getting everything that you can from this experience. That's what it's about. It's about sharing with you what we know, what we do, so that you can decide if this has value for you in your future. So just enjoy it and take what we're offering in this experience. So we're going to look at how it's possible to release negative emotions from events in your past as far as our experience is concerned using time-based techniques. So there are a couple of things I need to share with you about the way that your unconscious mind works. And what I'm going to be showing you is how it's possible, what is the theory, and what is the practice behind all of these particular things. So to be able to show you, we need to look at some of the workings of the unconscious mind. So your unconscious mind stores all of your memories. And this was demonstrated by a neuroscientist in the 50s by the name of Penfold. And Penfold actually demonstrated that within our unconscious mind, to be fair, he actually looked at how these were all stored within our brain and throughout our neurology, was that our unconscious mind or our neurology stores all of our memories, as in all of them. And it also organizes our memories in two different ways. So one is our timeline, which I'll take you through in a moment, and also the idea of a gestalt, which is a collection of memories that is around a particular topic or a particular subject. So you might have a collection of memories, which is all of your friends, a collection of memories about all of the cars that you've ever had in your life. It could be around all of the houses that you've lived in. So it organizes collections of memories. Now, your timeline. So we're going to do this first. So 98% of people have a concept of where their timeline is in relation to their body. So let's find out how your unconscious mind stores time. So just to begin with, I'd like to ask your unconscious mind to consider for you and to give you an adequate representation of your timeline. Now, I know you've all considered this before because you've all done some kind of webinar with me in the past. So if I were to ask your unconscious mind where your past was, in which direction would you point? So what about your future? If I was to ask your unconscious mind where your future was, what direction would you point? So now I'm going to ask you to go ahead and float up in the air above your timeline, trusting your unconscious mind, and we know that you do, and just go ahead and float way up in the air, right up above now. Go up 100 meters. Now go up 200 meters. Now come back down, remaining above the timeline to a height that is comfortable for you. Could be 70 meters or 50 meters, it doesn't matter. And then turn and face toward the past. And now float back into your past to the last day of school. So you're looking down on the event and just notice what is happening. What happened on the last day of school for you? Who were you with? What were you experiencing? What do you see? What were you hearing? What were you saying to yourself? And what were you feeling? Now, float back to the first day of school. What is happening on the very first day of school? Who were you with? Maybe you didn't know anybody on the first day. What were you experiencing? What do you see happening? What were you hearing? What were you saying to yourself? And what were you feeling? Now, I want you to turn and look toward now along your timeline. And now I want you to float out into your future to 10 years from now. Oh, that seems so far away. And when you get there, I want you to look down on the event 10 years from now. How are your relationships? What are your finances like 10 years from now? How's your business going? How is your family? How is your health and fitness? Is it going good? Is it going as you expected it to be? Notice if there's anything out there that you don't want. Just notice what's happening out there 10 years from now. Now, flow back toward now to 5 years from now. What are your finances like in 2029? How is your family 5 years from now? How are your relationships? How is your health and fitness? Is it going good? Is it going as you expected it to be? Are there any things there that you don't want? Note what is happening for you out there in 5 years' time. Now float back to now above your timeline. Just float all the way back to now. And when you get back to now, float down into the now and come back into the room. So how was that? Easy? Did you see anything out there that you didn't want in your future? Did you see anything that you would like to improve on in your future? If you saw anything out in your future that you didn't want or like, that is a signal from the unconscious mind to focus on what you want. Now, other things that your unconscious mind does, that it's the storehouse of all of your emotions. If you are feeling something, if you're feeling angry, it is actually your unconscious mind that is feeling angry. All your conscious mind does is label the feeling that you feel inside. Our conscious mind doesn't feel emotion. It labels what we feel. That's the job of the unconscious mind. So whether you're feeling sad, you're feeling excited, it is your unconscious mind So your conscious mind is the observer of your emotions, which is why if we want to work around our emotional freedom, if you want to work around emotional balance or regulation, if you want to work around emotional choice in life, then we need to be working with the unconscious mind and techniques specifically for working with the unconscious mind. Our unconscious mind will also repress memories with unresolved emotions. Now, I'll explain that. So a memory with unresolved emotions is a memory that may be from so long ago, but when we think about it, we may still feel angry or sad or afraid or hurt or guilty. So what our unconscious mind does is it takes the memory and it puts it in a little black box like this. So here's the memory and it pops it in there and then it shuts the lid. The memory is still there, still in the black box. So the emotion is still there, yet it's in the black box. So it's not playing on our mind all of the time. But if you're anything like me, what you experience is that every now and again, your unconscious mind will bring up these memories and bring them into your consciousness. Now, two of the big things for me was my marriage ending in divorce and the death of my best friend. So what our unconscious mind does is from time to time, to make it good, it will go, hey, Jen, do you want to think about your best friend dying now? Because here it is, you can think about it. And generally the answer is no, I don't. And we shut the lid, or it'll go, Jen, do you want to think about your divorce now? And I'll go, yeah, of course not. So we put it back in the black box. And I think a lot of us do this, that this is the way we tend to deal with unresolved stuff from the past. And I thought that's what life was about. And it's what a lot of people think life is about learning how to deal with it and to keep the black box shut. It wasn't until I learned time-based techniques in NLP that I realized that there is a choice. And there's a way of opening these black boxes and simply emptying them out. So they no longer troubled me. So the memories become resolved to the point where I can think about my best friend now and think about her with really loving memories. I can think about my marriage. And, you know, it was the fact that I got the choice about that, which was such a massive thing for me. So how is it all possible? Because it seems quite remarkable, quite miraculous. And I thought the same thing as most people do when they first do timeline therapy. But there is a number of things that we need to think about to make this possible. And it's actually really, really easy. Most people will resolve an event from their past in 10 to 15 minutes. About 82% of people will be able to do that, or to get rid of a limiting decision or a belief in about 15 minutes. The amazing thing about it is we didn't realize how it worked, and now we know how we can do it in a structured and organized way. We talked about these memories here: anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt. Didn't mention shame. These are all emotions that pretty much everybody has experience with. We've all had experiences in the past where we've held on to them and we've not let the emotions go. So they've changed the way we respond to things in the future. So maybe you've had an experience where afterwards you went, why did I get so angry about that? And it was just, that was just a little thing. Or, I don't want to react like that anymore. Or you go into a new relationship and you've got the sadness from your previous relationship, or you've got hurt from your previous relationship, or guilt, and you bring that into your new relationship, and it causes you to be more guarded. So it's kind of like, hi, my name's Jen, and here's all my emotional baggage. And you're carrying these massive suitcases. It's like you move into a new house and it's already full of luggage, which is your emotional baggage. You might call it the luggage of life. I've done it. We've all done it. So it is possible to release all of these, because each of these emotions here require the passage of time to exist. I'm going to ask you a question. A singular event in the past, a specific event that made you angry. Where was the anger for that event 50 minutes before the event started? Anyone want to have a crack at it? It didn't exist. It wasn't there 50 minutes before the event. Think of an event in your past, a specific event where something happened and it made you feel scared. Where was the fear before that event? It wasn't there. It didn't exist. Have you ever heard that saying, if we could turn back time? Well, in our mind, we can. We can absolutely turn back time. Have you also heard this particular saying? You might have said it to yourself. If I'd known then what I know now, I wouldn't have gotten angry or scared or in the first place. All of us have done that. And we can use these universal ways our unconscious mind works to be able to let go of all of these from our past. So here's how we do it from a technical point of view. So we have our timeline, and we've got events in our past that made us feel angry, or they made us feel sad or afraid or guilty or hurt or shameful. It doesn't matter what it is. So because of the way that the unconscious mind organizes our memories and stores our memories, there has to be a particular memory, which really is a quite natural thing for us to do, and we call it the first event. So the first time you ever felt angry, the first time you ever felt afraid, the first time you ever felt sad or hurt or shame or guilt. Now, if you think about it, as we mentioned before, in your world, in your universe, 15 minutes before the first time you ever felt it, it did not exist. 15 minutes before the first time you ever felt sad, it did not exist in your universe. We're able to work with the unconscious mind to find the first event. And let's say, for arbitrary purposes, if we were to go 15 minutes before that first event, and you'd learned all of the things that if you'd known at the time, you wouldn't have been angry or sad or afraid or hurt or guilty or felt shame in the first place, then you wouldn't have felt it. These are called the learnings. So if you go 15 minutes before the first time you ever felt angry, but knowing exactly what you need to know so you weren't angry in the first place, or sadness or fear or hurt or guilt or shame, it doesn't matter, you might notice that these look a little bit like a string of pearls. And what happens is, if we go to before the first event with knowing what we know now, we literally pull the string out of the string of pearls. And all of the pearls drop off. And that's exactly what we do with time-based techniques. So it's what we do with mental emotional release techniques, and we can assist people in doing this. So you might be thinking, what's the first event? Do I even know what the first event is? Probably not consciously. So we have to do this process unconsciously because your unconscious mind stores your memories. So your unconscious mind has to know what the first event was because it's its job to store all of your memories and to organize all of your memories. Now, you'll see here some of these are a bit bigger. So these generally are significant emotional events. They're the ones you remember clearly. So your first breakup might be, you might say, oh, the first time I ever felt hurt was when I had my first breakup. No, it's not. It's the one you remember because it was significant. But you will have felt hurt long before that, just a different degree of it. So it organizes all of your memories in a timeline. We already know that. It organizes your memories in a gestalt. We know that. So there has to be a first time, and your unconscious mind must know when it was. So just a little bit more theory. The only way that I can actually explain how all of this is possible is where would the first event be? So here's the timeline, and we allow for the first event to be in a number of different places. So the first place we look for it is within the first 7 years of life. So Maurice Massey, he developed different stages and where we pick up our, our values, we have role models and all sorts of stuff. So the first period he calls the imprint period, when literally emotions around us are imprinted upon our unconscious mind. So I think we've all known kids in their first 7 years, and I know we've all been kids in our first 7 years. So we have all experienced that range of negative emotions potentially in those first 7 years. So we're looking for an early event, and this is really important that we find the first one so that we can take out the negative emotion from the root, from the cause. We also allow for memory to be in the womb. We know that babies are intimately aware of what's going on in the mother's womb and what's going on for the mother from an emotional point of view. So the first event could be there too. We're also looking for it being in a genealogical timeline, which has been passed down to us. Now, it could be the result of imprinting, as in, for example, let's say that someone's brought up with everyone in our family has anxiety. Your grandparents had it, my grandparents had it, everyone, your uncles and your aunties have it. Everyone in our family has anxiety. So it could be a family myth, and it runs almost as a family tradition. We're becoming more and more aware of the fact that we have cellular memory and that negative emotions in our mother can actually change our DNA. We also know about intergenerational trauma. So our past traumas or our ancestors' past traumas might actually be imprinted upon our DNA as a means of evolution. Mental emotional release techniques actually change our DNA coding when we release the trauma and the negative emotions. These are the things that scientists are starting to look at these days. So the root cause could have come from a past life. So there are traditions, there are religions all around the planet that don't have past lives as being an idea and a notion. They are fact. So the Hindu religion, the Buddhist religion, for instance, have that we've lived many, many lives. And we bring lessons into our new lives. So it could be karma. it's sometimes called, from those lives into this life for the purpose of us to learn from. Not from a punishment point of view, which is a big misunderstanding that a lot of people have in relation to karma, but it's actually for a learning point of view. What we bring from a past life, we can release in this life. So we allow for all of these things because it actually doesn't matter what you believe as an individual, whether you believe in genealogical timelines, cellular DNA coding, doesn't matter if you believe in past lives or if it came from the womb. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what does your unconscious mind give you as being the first event, the root cause of all of this. And if we're able to revisit the first event and have your unconscious mind learn from that event, the first event is just an internal representation. It's not real. It's where your unconscious mind says the whole thing started. So let's say that my unconscious mind says the first event for me, the first experience of anger for me was when I was 7. My unconscious mind enables me to recover that memory. I'm not going back to the internal representation of that memory as a 7-year-old. I'm going back as a 52-year-old to that memory, which enables me to reframe that memory and change it. I can change the way it makes me feel. I can change the way it makes me behave, and therefore I can change the results that I get. And this is how time-based techniques fix your mind. And this is what we teach. It can enable you or your clients to regain emotional freedom in life. And the reason why we teach this is because we've experienced this. So honestly, I couldn't believe how quickly I got rid of my negative emotions and the impact it had on the way that I was in the world. I couldn't believe how quickly the emotions around my best friend dying, around my marriage ending in divorce, how they disappeared. It was such a relief. And that's when I decided that this was something that I was going to dedicate the rest of my life to teaching people how to do it. It's why I'm doing this right now. So let's think about this from a belief point of view. If we all had the same beliefs, whether they were positive or negative beliefs, we'd all have the same religious beliefs, we'd all have the same beliefs about ourselves, about money, about relationships, about who we are, but we don't. So beliefs are not real. They are internal representations. So with beliefs, we must have made a decision either consciously or unconsciously that a particular belief was true for us. Not for everybody, but just for us. Does anybody here remember Doctor Who or the movie Back to the Future? Where we're able to go into the past and change things for the future. We can do that with time-based techniques. So if you were able to find an event in your past where you decided that you weren't good enough, and maybe it was when you were 5 as a result of something you experienced at school or at home, it doesn't matter. So just imagine, going back to that time and learning from that time, revisiting the 5-year-old you. For me as a 52-year-old, knowing what I know now, and reframing the things that had me decide I wasn't good enough and realizing that they're not actually valid anymore. Okay? So what happens is your unconscious mind unlocks it from time. Now, there's a writer, Alfred Korzybski, and he talked about this in his book, and it was called Science and Sanity. And this is why he was called the time binder. So we time bind memories. We have an experience when we're 5, and if we don't know how to change it, we can keep that memory with the same meaning it had when we were 5 for the rest of our lives. Unless we learn to use time-based techniques like timeline therapy and mental emotional release, where we can go back to that memory and we can unlock it from the timeline. And we can have the limiting decision disappear, and therefore the belief disappears forever. Imagine it's like magic. Arthur C. Clarke, he formulated his famous 3 laws. And it was in his book, Profiles of the Future. And it was an inquiry into the limits of the possible. And the 3rd law, which is the best known and most widely cited, is any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So he just said that magic is just any significantly advanced technology that most people don't understand. And most people don't understand this. Okay? But you do. So the majority of people would think this is like magic. And even though I've experienced this and I've taken people through this for years now, even though I understand the theory of it, when I see it work, when I see it happen, it's still magic. So we're going to do a test drive where we don't care if we let it go or not, but I know you will let it go because you've all done this before. So I'd like you to pick a minor event from your past which still has a charge on it, and a negative charge on it. It could be your recent past. So how recent is recent? It could be 2 months, 2 years, 2 weeks, who knows? Make sure the event is complete. So for example, if your marriage broke up 2 months ago, it's probably not complete yet. Whilst it's incomplete, we can't remove the negative emotions. Okay? Because they're in it, they're experiencing it. Okay? So we wait for the event to be complete, and then we can go back and clear the emotions from the past, because if it's not complete, the emotions are in the present. They're not actually in the past. So complete means it's not ongoing, it's not part of a chain. Complete means there's nothing more to do. So, has everybody got an event? It could be someone cutting you off on the highway and you know, that really pissed me off. It could be getting a telemarketing phone call. It could have been a run-in with a colleague in the workplace. So just go ahead and float right up in the air. Trusting your unconscious mind, and we know that you do, just float way up in the air. And let's ask your unconscious mind to take you back into the past with regards to this event of the recent past. And floating into the past, so you're above and before the event. And make sure you're looking toward now. And then I want you to go directly above the event, so you're looking straight down on the event. And as you look straight down on the event, ask your unconscious mind, what was it that you needed to have learned from this event? The learning of which will allow you to easily and effortlessly let go of the emotion. What was it you needed to have learned? Make sure the learnings are stated in the positive for you and for your future. And you can go as high as you need to go. So now let's go to before the event, further into the past, and turn and look toward now. Trust your unconscious mind knows how to do this. So you're back before the event occurred. Turn around so you're looking toward now. And the question is now, where are the emotions? Where did they go? That's right. They've disappeared. And if the emotions have disappeared, that's really good. You can come back to now, remaining above your timeline. Just float back to now, and then float down into the now and come back into the room. If the emotion has not yet disappeared, it may be because you're too close to the event. So just float further back into the past. Get up twice as high and twice as far back from the event. In fact, get up high enough and far enough back so that the emotion disappears well before the chain of the emotion. Make sure you're well before any of the events that led to that event, and look toward now. And notice that the emotions just disappear. And that's perfect. You can just let them go. Just let them go easily and effortlessly. If the emotion has not yet disappeared, ask your unconscious mind, is this the first event? If it's not the first event, let's just have your unconscious mind immediately go instantaneously zooming back before the first event, right now. Now notice that the emotion disappears. If the emotions disappeared, come back to now. If the emotion has not yet disappeared, I'd like to talk to the part of you that thinks it's not okay to go ahead and let it go. We'd like to ask that part to consider its highest intention. As that part considers its highest intention, it needs to know that its highest intention will be far better served by just letting the emotion go and preserving the learnings. The emotion, though, is causing some results, is not good for the body. The highest prime directive of the unconscious mind is to preserve the body. Holding on to this emotion is in direct conflict with that. So what we suggest is that it's far better to preserve the learnings and let go of the emotion and preserve the resources for you and your future. So let go of the emotion. Just let it go. Let it go. Now, for those of you who are back and the emotion has released, I'd like you just to go back and check that the emotion is totally gone from that event. And just notice that it has totally disappeared for you. If the emotion hasn't disappeared yet, it's because you're too close to it. So get up twice as high and twice as far back. If you're feeling the emotion, you may be in the event. So just get up out of it and get higher and further back from the event until you notice that the emotion just disappeared. Further back into the past and higher up in the air. So when you're ready, just float back to now. Come all the way back to now and float down into the now and come back into the room. Now, does anybody here have anxiety or experience anxiety? So anxiety is a message from the unconscious mind to focus on what you want. So whether it's generalized anxiety or social anxiety, it doesn't matter, or if it relates to a specific event, it could be, you know, I used to get anxious every time I had to do my 6-monthly performance review. Even though I knew I was really good at my job and that the review would be okay, I would always get anxious about it. So the way to work with anxiety or to work with your clients who have anxiety is to float up above your timeline and go 15 minutes beyond the successful conclusion of whatever it is you thought you were anxious about. Now, the key here is you must imagine the successful completion of the event. And then when you turn and look toward now along your timeline, anxiety cannot exist. Because anxiety relates to something happening that you don't want to happen. So if the event concludes successfully, then you can't have anxiety. And we use that for everything. And gee, I wish teachers and therapists knew how to do that. So you might even want to do the anxiety process before you go to sleep and 15 minutes after you wake up from having a sound, restful sleep. And practice that over and over again. And then what happens is it becomes a generalized process for the unconscious mind. So it will just start automatically doing it. Okay. So anything you feel anxious about, start using this technique. And then what happens is as soon as you feel it in your neurology, your unconscious mind will do the process. So I've had clients have to do this on 120 different things. But after about 30, it becomes generalized. So I've said, they've given me a whole list and I've gone, okay, well, you need to do this process on all of it. And then they get to 30 and then they go, oh, it just happens automatically now. Okay, so that process, you can utilize that timeline process for lots of events in your past. Okay, so don't do it yet with major events unless there's only a small charge emotionally left on it. Okay, so I don't want you to get stuck in a major negative emotion from your past and not be able to resolve it, because it creates another gestalt. It'll create another event, even though because you're reliving it. So when people are triggered and they have trauma in their past, they actually relive the event and it becomes another event. They relive a memory in the present. And that is why I don't like psychology, because people have to talk about the events over and over and over again every time they go to therapy. And that's the issue I have with talk therapy. State control is really important, and being able to release these emotions from your past gives you ultimate state control, because your responses are appropriate and warranted. They don't become inappropriate and unwarranted as they are when we're full of negative emotion. I think that's about it. I mean, I've got so many notes, there were so many things I wanted to cover, but, I don't want to keep you any longer than I say I'm going to. So thank you so much for taking the time to join me this evening or this morning. And I really, really look forward to supporting you in your endeavors in whatever way, shape, or form that we can. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you so much. And we'll see you all again really, really soon.